My name is Ed Pritchard. I'm the Director and Head of Education for Veredus. Veredus is an executive search and selection supplier. We operate across the education market, and that market is higher education, further education skills, where education meets government, so at a policy level, and increasingly with the private supplier market to education. We search internationally for positions within the UK, and indeed we recruit for international based organisations where we search globally for senior talent. I think the key thing that makes Veredus different to what perhaps some of our peers do in industry is when I visit a client, I'm pretty comfortable that I can look them in the eye and say, sir, madam, I'm doing this work on your behalf. You will talk to me and I'll be the only one who'll be making contact with these individuals that you want in your organisation. This delivery is personal to me and I'll work very hard on your behalf. The question as to whether higher education is public sector or not it's an interesting and big debate. I mean, at an elementary level, you could say that universities have been established as charities, but the debate does deepen than that. There's also the point that universities are not public sector because they're set up along the lines of a government type body, but because they deliver the public good. And it's that point around public good, particularly post the Brown Report and the increase in fees as to the public gaining through the education system versus an individual's gaining through the education system, that a lot of this debate has centred around. So the answer is almost, it depends who you ask, but then there's also a point, it kind of doesn't really matter, because regardless of what sector the university sits in, the reality is we're having this debate because the sector is going through so much change. And as a supplier of executive search services to the market, I'm particularly interested in the leadership challenge that change brings around. So where are the skills deficiencies that HE leaders are having to look at, and what are some of the sectors that they're having to look in order to help fill those gaps? That's what I'm particularly interested in. Well, we've seen a couple of hiring trends over the last 18 months with the impending REF, so the Research Excellence Framework. Some institutions have turned around and said, well, if you're refable, you are hireable. So that's one area. But one particular part of the university structure that we've seen a lot of interest in from our clients is the senior professional services area, and particularly finance and IT recruitment. Now, senior leaders in finance and IT have never been unimportant positions within a university, but with the increasing consumerist nature of the sector and the creativity required in budgets and having to look for more creative ways of looking of finding money, quite frankly, looking at external talent is becoming increasingly important. Indeed, expert use of IT can really make the difference when you're in a consumer-driven market. And what we're finding that HE leaders are interested in the perspective that an out-of-sector hire can bring. That's a really big area for us at the moment. It's a really big jump moving across sector into the university sector, and we have had lots of experience, and indeed it's our job to assess the learning gaps and indeed helping inbound candidates help them land effectively and make sure that their runway into the role is as strong as possible. What we have found typically is that the type of individuals that operate best, having come from a commercial or outside of the sector, are individuals who have operated on the cusp of private and public sector. So someone who has operated in an intensely commercial environment, but ultimately a commercial environment which is quite highly regulated. It's those that tend to have less of a learning curve. As individuals work their way up the university hierarchy and work their way into positions of administration, the focus on people management has to become more prevalent, and indeed given the change that the sector is going through, these people have to be change orientated. And we are very mindful when we're both finding these individuals, but also assessing these individuals around how robust a change manager they are. And it's their robustness under the pressure of what can be an inert culture, and certainly one that is averse to change, that is something that we typically assess quite heavily.